Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishwaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Punyavadi Paskachai Dashatarine Lapopati. We are entering the 6th chapter of the Gita, Dhyana Yoga. In the first 5 chapters, Krishna has explained mainly Buddhi Yoga, or working with consciousness fixed on Krishna, without motive desires, or Krishna consciousness. But he has also explained Sankhya Yoga, or Jnana Yoga is the same, more or less, there is a difference. But Karma Yoga, yeah, and Karma Yoga. And now, this were a process of attaining liberation. And we learned they are just stepping stones of Krishna consciousness. That preliminary spiritual practice before coming to Krishna consciousness. And that, or Bhakti Yoga. So at the end of the 5th chapter, Krishna starts to speak about the yoga process. How to get liberation free from desires. So in the 6th chapter, Krishna is continuing that subject. And he will speak about Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana means meditation, the yoga of meditation, which is achieved through the process of Ashtanga Yoga, 8-fold system of yoga, and the 8 stages we already heard: Yam, Niyam, Asham, Pranayam, Pratyahara. And then after Pratyahara, that's Dharan, premeditation, then Dhyan, meditation, Pali Samadhi. These are the 8-fold system of meditation. But Prabhupada, at the end of the purpose, in the previous verse, the previous chapter, he said, yes, this is preliminary practice. The real direct meditation on the absolute is Bhakti Yoga. Directly fix your mind on Krishna to the chanting and so on. That's superior to that. So this is not our process, but we can learn a lot from the descriptions here, which we can use in our practice of Bhakti Yoga. Why is that? Because the other yogas, all the other yogas are incomplete. Only Bhakti Yoga is the complete yoga process. Because we heard first Karma Yoga in the sense of doing one's duties without being attached to the result. This yoga has 2 characteristics. Doing one's duties, action, without being attached to the result, is renunciation. So it has 2 characteristics, action and renunciation, Karma Yoga, right? And then we have Jnana Yoga, or Sankhya Yoga also. That process has also two characteristics. But it renounces, so there is no action anymore. They want to stop action. No, action is not there. That there is knowledge and renunciation. Knowledge and renunciation, two characteristics. And now we come to Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga has three characteristics. There is no action, that's not there. But there is knowledge that we are the soul. There is knowledge. There is renunciation. You have to give up all your attachment up. And there is meditation. Three characteristics. But Bhakti Yoga is a complete yoga and has five characteristics. The complete yoga must have five characteristics. It is action. It is renounced. It is with knowledge. It is meditation and devotion. Five characteristics. And therefore Bhakti Yoga is supreme. It's the supreme yoga, because Krishna will say further in Bhagavad Gita, in 1154, you can know me only by Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. Krishna says in 1855, I think, Bhaktyam abhijanti yamya sasmi tattva tatubam tattvato katva vishatit anantaram. I can only be known by love, pure devotional service. And only by this devotion you can enter into the kingdom of God. That's the visa. Without that, you cannot enter the spiritual world. One needs devotion. Because the other yogas have other destinations. The Jnana Yoga wants to merge with Brahman realization. And the bona fide yogi, he has Paramatma realization, but that's still in this world. To get out of this world, you need devotion. So that shows the superiority of bhakti. So you get a question, show the superiority of bhakti towards the other yoga systems. Very important. We must know these things. But now we go in chapter 6, which is Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. First, we will see the first 4 verses explain the basic principles. To start this yoga, you must first do karma yoga. You must work out of duty without being attached to the result to purify your heart. If your heart is too much contaminated, you cannot do yoga. In the yoga schools, you are only allowed when you are celibate and when you have done karma yoga for a long time. You must be qualified, otherwise you are not allowed as a student even in the Vedic system. Of course, today the yoga clubs here is something else. Their purpose is a little different, to get rid of your fat or your stress or these things. And the yoga is meant for Paramatma realization. And sannyas of yoga is the same. Sannyas means giving up all material desires. Yoga is the same. Giving up all material desires. So first you must do action, karma yoga, to elevate yourself. And then you can begin gradually, the Ashtanga yoga, that You have to come to Yoga Ruda, the platform of renunciation of sensual pleasures and desires. Then you can practice this yoga. So that's explained in the first 4 verses. And then we will hear about the mind and yoga. Without control of the mind, Prabhupada said before, yoga is a farce. But you must control the mind. So deliver the soul by the mind. But for this, your mind must be your friend. And our enemy, unless we are liberated, our mind is our greatest enemy. And the purpose of yoga is Paramatma realization. And when you perform this yoga, you will get an experience of the soul. And then we hear the vision of an advanced yogi. But that is the start of the chapter. Yoga Ruksha and Yoga Ruda practice. That is the first 9 chapters. Yoga Ruksha is the beginning of the ladder, and Yoga Ruda is the end. So at the end of chapter 5 and continuing chapter 6, Krishna explains Dhyana Yoga, concluding that is the goal of meditation. Even in Ashtanga Yoga, Karma Yoga, it's necessary in the beginning stage. Karma Yoga is necessary in the beginning stages. You have first to purify yourself. And when one becomes accomplished in the practice of meditation, it ceases all disturbing mental activities. And when the mind is purified, one comes to the stage of Yoga Ruda. That's the idea. 6, 5. Okay. Let's first hear about the first 4 verses. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Anasrita Karma Phalam
Anashita Karma
Karyam Karma Karotiyam
Karyam Karma Karotiyam
Sasanyasi Sayogicha
Sasanyasi Yogita
Aniraknir Nasakriyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and work as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life and is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So, in this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of the Eightfold Yoga system is meant to control the mind and senses. However, this is very difficult in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali, although the Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter. The Lord emphasizes that the process of Karma Yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. The Prabhupada mentions that in the last verse here again. Bhakti Yoga is better because it's a very difficult process, and Arjuna will reject it. He says to Krishna, I cannot do this. Controlling this mind in this way, it's more difficult than controlling the wind. You cannot say to the wind, oh, stop. No, you cannot control this mind, he said. It's flickering, obnoxious, that you cannot control it. And Prabhupada says in a lecture, Arjuna could not do it. and he's thousand times more qualified than all of us. So what with us? They say maybe a handful can do it in the Himalayas, but most people will not be able to do that. But in reality, so in the beginning, one must do karma yoga. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and work as he is obligated. That's karma yoga. And one who do this perfectly, Krishna says, is in the renounced order of life. Is a true mystic. Not the one who goes begging and who goes to the forest that to renounce everything. No, that not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. There's some Mayavadi sannyasis, well, they say, it's in the scriptures, a sannyasi should never cook with fire. Should not light a fire. That's there. But Krishna says no. A Vaishnava sannyas, he cooks for Krishna. He does all these things, not for himself, but for Krishna. By that is renounced. That he not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. No. Arjuna has to do his duty and still be a sannyasi. And sannyasi in heart means giving up the results of his activities. But no one is working without self-interest. Some personal gratification, be it concentrated or extended. The criterion of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with the view of enjoying the fruits of the work. To act in Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity, because all are constitutionally part and parcels of the Supreme. Further, similarly, the living entity who acts for the satisfaction of the Supreme Whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. That acting for pleasing, that's the definition of pure devotional service by Narada Muni. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat parittvana nirmalam rishikena rishikeshan sevanam bhaktir uttama. That's a verse you have to, a key memory verse for the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. You have to, I'm repeating it, but you must know it. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam. Sarvo, all upadis, all false identifications, vinirmuktam, must be given up. The false identification. We have so many false identifications. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I belong to this country, and so many. And I have this profession, I'm did that. That's all upadis. Sarva upadis, vinirmuktam. Tat parittvana nirmalam. One must follow all the duties of serving Krishna, of Bhakti Yoga. And that is Rishikena Rishikesha. Krishna, who is the controller of everyone's senses. He controls our senses. We are not the doer. Rishikena, to this controller, we must satisfy his spiritual senses. Rishikena. And that is Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. This is pure devotional service. This is one of the definitions of pure devotional service. There are many, also in the Bible, that by Rupa Goswami, by Sutta Goswami, different, So, to act in Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity. The living entity is the soul. Because all are constitutionally part and parcels of the Supreme. Similarly, the living entity who acts for the satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. One who acts for the satisfaction of the supreme whole. We are part of the whole. And by acting for the satisfaction of the whole, not for personal satisfaction, is the perfect yogi. Further, but actually there are the sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated of all material duties and therefore cease to perform Agnihotras. But actually, they are self-interested because their goal is to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Such a desire is greater than any material desire, but is not without self-interest. Further, but a person acting in Krishna consciousness works for the satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. Text 2. Yam sanyasam iti prahu yogam tam viti pandava naya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kashana. What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desires for sense gratification. It's the same thing. You cannot meditate on Krishna when you have material desires in the heart. Your mind will drag you away. Very difficult to chant Hare Krishna with attention. But yeah, there are different ways. Are we going to fight with the mind? But bring it back always. Very difficult. It becomes a whole struggle, the chanting. Instead of trying to do that, try to put all your love in the chanting. It will go much easier. That all your affection. So real sannyas or bhakti means that one should know its constitutional position as a living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the martial energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by the material energy, he is conditioned. And when he is in Krishna consciousness or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratification activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. Sannyasi, no material desires, and is always engaged in Krishna service, always meditating on Krishna. His mind is controlled. He's a yogi, the highest yogi. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. That's interesting. You must do karma yoga first to purify yourself. Otherwise, you are not allowed in the jnana school and in the yoga school. In the jnana schools, that is renunciation with tapasya. Also, when you are married, you must be celibate to come into that school. That's very strict. But Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that we have different rules. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore engage in self-satisfaction, because no one stands on the platform of inactivity. So if you don't have knowledge of Krishna and you don't perform devotional service, then you must engage in material activities of sense gratification. because you must be active. That's the point made here. That so I'm just repeating what we are summarizing, the two first verses. Impersonalist sannyas and mystic yogis think they are liberated, sometimes stop performing their duties. Actually, they are self-interested because the jnanis want to become one with Brahman and the yogis want mystic powers. Real sannyas and real yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna without self-interest. Sannyas and yoga are non-different because both means giving up votive desires, material desires. A Krishna consciousness person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi because he engages his senses in the service of Krishna. And now verse 3, arurokso. Arurokso. So these terms you must know. Yoga Ruda and arurokso, or yoga rurukso. Arurokso in the, what is the meaning in the word for word? Yeah.
Who have just begun yoga.
Begin, yeah. So that's the beginning. That arurokso mane yogam karma karna muchyate. Yoga udasita sheva sama karnam uchate. Yoga udasya, what's the word for word?
Each for yoga of one who has attained.
Yeah. Yoga arudasya, of one who has attained the perfection in yoga. Okay. Now we'll hear the translation. Aruruksa mane yogam karma karna muchyate. Yoga udasita sheva sama karnam uchyate. For one who is neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of material activities is said to be the means. So in the beginning, when is a neophyte, that work is the means. Karma yoga. Work now, samadhi later. Work now. And later, when you have perfection, elevated in yoga, and you have given up all material activities, then you can practice, come to samadhi, practice yoga really. So in the Prabhupada, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided in three parts: Dhyana yoga, and Bhakti yoga. That's another ladder, the yoga ladder. I think I have it here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, that's the yoga. Here. Okay, we bring it on the screen. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. You see here, yoga ruruksa. Cultivating the attachment, karma yoga. And here then you have the process of yoga, niyam, asana, and so on. Then you can start. Especially in the beginning, you can do the first three more, but not higher. Then pranayama is really the practice when you have become advanced. And finally, you can give up work, then you come to dhyana and samadhi. That's yoga ruda. There's a whole process, can take many lifetimes. So 3 parts: Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. This, yeah. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, it ceases all disturbing mental activities. So this is what we explained in the first 5 chapters. Karma Yoga, the Karma Yoga goes to Jnana Yoga and then comes to Astanga Yoga and then to Bhakti Yoga. These are the stairs up. But that's the indirect process to come to Bhakti Yoga. But Krishna says, you take the lift, direct Bhakti Yoga. Don't practice these things. Bhakti Yoga. But in our practice of Bhakti Yoga, we must also control the mind. So many of these advices are also good for us because it is one of the stages of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, it's also good for us to know that. So a Krishna consciousness, however situated from the beginning, is from the beginning is on the platform of meditation, because he always thinks of Krishna. And being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna is considered to have ceased all material activities. Text form. Yadahi nandrayaste suna karmas anusachate sarva sankalpa sanyasi yoga udas tatochate. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. That's the one who is advanced in yoga, who comes at the higher stages, yoga ruda. Yeah. This interesting. Yeah. This is the higher stages. Then one is giving up sense gratification and can focus his mind, hearing, remembering, absorb, meditation. Yeah. Here's what each of these stages means, and we will go to the stages in this chapter. Each of these stages are verses we go through. That so we will go to the process. But good. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered and extended selfish activities. But a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. So the devotee is from in the beginning practically detached from sense gratification in his motivation. That if he's highly motivated, he may have still material desires, but he doesn't act upon them. He engages fully in Krishna consciousness, and if necessary, dovetail these desires with Krishna's desire. But now we are coming to stop, share again to text 5. The mind, that's a problem. And these are 2 important verses. Udarattatmanatmanam atmanam avasaidayat atvevayatmanam bandhuratvevarepuratmanam bandhuratmatmanastasyayanatmat yanatmaivatmana chitanatmastu satvitva vartatatma vasatvivat. I read both verses because they are going together. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and is his enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, and one who has failed to do so, his mind will be the greatest enemy. That in the purpose here, yeah. So yoga practice means controlling the mind so that the mind becomes detached from sense enjoyment. This is easily done by engaging the mind in Krishna's service. An uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. It forces one to follow the dictations of lust, anger, and greed. You become a servant of lust, anger, and greed. The controlled mind is one's best friend because it voluntarily follows the dictation of one's best friend, Paramatma. That so yes, and text 7 gives us the purpose of this yoga. So the purpose of yoga is to control the mind and draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nations. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. So one should not degrade himself by attraction in sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and his mission are spoiled. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictates of lust, anger, avarice, illusion. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead. One is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. At the end, for one who takes the Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So an uncontrolled mind is a mind that is absorbed in, is running after sense gratification, identifying with the body. A controlled mind is a mind that follows the dictations of the super soul within. How do we follow the dictations of Krishna within the heart? The dictation of Krishna within the heart are the same dictations that Krishna gives to Arjuna. If we follow the instructions of Krishna to Arjuna in this book and take guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, we get the same benefit as Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada says. So yes, the mind can degrade yourself or uplift yourself. So we must use the mind in Krishna's service always, then it will uplift us. Any other use of the mind will degrade you. Then your mind is your enemy. So we are living with the greatest enemy, that our own mind. That is, Maya comes to the mind. So one should deliver the soul by the mind, not degrade it. The mind is a friend of the soul as well as its enemy. That's the translation of Baladev Vidyabhushan. Submerged in samsara. One should not submerge the Atma in samsara by the mind attached to sense objects. So the soul by identifying with the mind, takes birth again. That's the cause of taking birth again and again and again. We identify with this mind. And with this good and bad in this world and all these things that the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over the material nature. That's the mind implicates us in this material world. Very serious thing. Don't trust your mind. You are not a mind. But at the same time, you have to deal in a gentle way with your mind. Otherwise, your life becomes very sour. Yeah. That's what Pralanana said to me. That if you say you say no sweets, and the mind is attached to sweets, then the mind will say no, 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 we want sweets. And you say no sweets, then the mind becomes very sour, difficult to live with. So you tell the mind, okay, you want sweets, I give you a little, but that's it. Finish. So you have to deal with the mind. That and gradually we will control it. It's like my Guru might say, it's like a weightlifter. You don't start with the big weight. You build it up. You build it up. That the best way to disentangle oneself is always to engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. That's important. That's the way to get out of it. Always engage the mind in hearing about Krishna, that remembering Krishna, speaking about Krishna, that serving Krishna in so many ways. Reflection. During 24 hours of each day, how much time is my mind involved with false ego and forcing me to act following my attachment to sense objects in this world? Yeah, that's a meditation. Enemy or friend. The mind is a friend of the soul which has conquered the mind. So before thinking that your mind is your friend, you must conquer it. You must conquer it. If you have conquered the mind, the next verse says, you feel Paramatma in your heart. You come in contact directly. So if you don't feel Paramatma in your heart, your mind is your enemy. Not conquered. Simple test. Simple test. But, the mind is an enemy of that soul which has not controlled the mind. Okay, that's Vishwanath Chakravarti. An unconquered enemy. As long as one's mind remains unconquered, an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, madness, envy. That you become a servant of the contamination of your own mind. Servant of the contamination. There are 6 enemies of the mind are mentioned here. The three first: lust, anger, greed, Kam, Krodha, Lobha. Krishna says in the 16th chapter, these 3 are gates to hell. Yeah, but then illusion, thinking we are the body and so on, thinking we are so many things. madness, thinking that the goal is sense gratification and so on. Envy, there's a big one. That thinking, oh, jealousy, this person is enjoying so much and I'm not. Yeah, they are driving a big car. But it's all nonsense. Not an unconquered enemy. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then follow its dictation. That is yoga. Krishna is in our heart. Why not hearing what he is saying? Try to hear. If we cannot hear, we can still pray to him. But in the heart. Simana Shiksha, verse 4. You will get nectar of the voice of Damodar Priya, right? Damodar Priya told me when she came to Krishna consciousness, she got his book Mana Shiksha from Raghunadas Goswami. And Mana Shiksha is prayers to the mind, instructions to the mind. So she got his book and she read the first page. Oh, then we are not the mind, she said. In the beginning, she was not yet a devotee. So she was thinking, I'm not a mind. Oh, that's new. So this is a prayer to the mind. Yeah, I don't know these figures here. These 4. It's the mind who talks to us. My dear mind, you must categorically relinquish all frivolous and mundane talk, which is like a prostitute who steals all your intelligence and resolve. No mundane talk. Yes, not Goswami. Okay. But dictation of Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails the Paramatma within the heart and then follow its dictation. Yeah. So that is Mana Shiksha. Next verse of Mana Shiksha. My dear mind, in this material life, you are attacked by lust, which is like a gang of thugs that waylay innocent pilgrims, strangling you with strong, terrible ropes in the form of distress, pain, and futile endeavors. So the mind is attacked by lust, and this lust is like a gang of thugs, gangsters, or gangsters who are attacking innocent pilgrims. It's strangling you with strong, stable ropes. You get, because the mind gives you distress, gives you pain, and let you engage in futile endeavors for nothing. That many times we lose so much time just by the mind. The mind wants this and that. It's unbelievable. Reflections. Am I a servant of my own lust, anger, greed, or do I follow the instructions of the spiritual master and Lord Krishna? So do I follow my mind, or do I follow the instructions of my spiritual master? Am I a servant of my mind? Am I a servant of my lust, anger, greed, madness of illusion down there, or do I serve Radha Krishna? It's up to us. Who do we want to serve? So, text 7. Citatmana pasantas ma paramatma samaita sitasnasakaduka tamana pamani. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold. No, it's 6 first. 6. So, yeah, it's 7. Yeah. Citatma pasantas ma paramatma samaita sitasnasakaduka tamana pamanayo. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. So if you have conquered the mind, control the mind, then you are peaceful. You are completely peaceful. Without material desires, you find Krishna in your heart. So, because the material desires are a disturbance, a covering from ignorance. If the covering is taken away, the curtain of illusion is taken away, we see Krishna. Queen Kunti prays about this curtain of illusion. Oh Krishna, he says, people do not know you because of this curtain of illusion. You are, is that curtain of illusion is away, we come in contact with Krishna. And so then you are completely peaceful. Such a man has understood happiness or distress, honor or dishonor, it's all the same. It doesn't matter, it's for the body. I'm not the body. It has nothing to do with the soul. All these things. Then one comes out of illusion. That this honor and dishonor. It doesn't matter. Someone is dishonored his whole life, and the other person is honored his whole life. It's for the body. The body dies, and what can the soul do with that? Nothing. Just so we are disturbed in this life by so many things, all for nothing. And that's the reality. So, purport. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma, because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness. The devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress, happiness, cold, and heat. This state is practical samadhi, or absorption in the Supreme. So when one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, one has no alternative to follow the dictation of the Supreme. When we think of Krishna, always absorbed, Krishna guides us from within. And how he does that, he says in the 10th chapter, 10:11. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma, or the Super Soul. Srila Prabhupada. 6:8. Now, the position of such a person is described here. Jnana vijnana triptatna kutasto vichitandriya yukta ityuchate uhi samustasma kanchana. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. Further, only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. That you will learn in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. by realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he surrendered to Krishna. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold for others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. So, a person who is in self-realization is fully satisfied, has no desires to fulfill, is situated in transcendence and self-controlled. For him, pebbles, stone, or gold are the same. It's matter. And we have nothing to do with matter. So a person is said to be established in self-realization is called a yogi or mystic when he's fully satisfied by virtue of knowledge and realization. So that's the translation of the verse, text 9. And then a person who is even more advanced, Prabhupada said, Srinmitra Udashina Natyastat Veshabandhusu Satujapasapapeshu Samabuddhir Sishyate. Person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral meditators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with equal minds and equal disposition. So his position of seeing equally mediators, envious, friends, enemies, pious, sinners, is superior of seeing dirt and gold as the same. So one sees the soul, that one does not see the sin or the sinner, or he sees, yes, the soul in the body of a dog and the soul of a body in a Brahman. He understands the soul in a body of a dog has misused his independence more than a Brahman. Therefore, he has the body of a dog. But they are equal. Krishna is here also in their hearts. That was interesting. Purnachandra Maharaj told us one time that so Krishna is in the heart of everyone. He was making a walk in a park and a dog was following him. And it continued following him wherever he went. And he looked at a certain moment, was thinking Krishna is in his heart. And nobody was around, and he offered his obeisances to the super soul in the dog, in the heart of the dog, and he was bowing down. And then when he got up, the dog said, what? And he made some noise, and he disappeared. Anyway, it was an interesting experience. But yes, see Krishna in everyone's heart. That we can pray to the super soul in someone else's heart. Please, Krishna, make their soft heart. You can pray like that. You can pray, let me know what happened. So yes, that's the first session of today. And that's the next session. After the pause, we go to the next session, the practice of yoga. Now we are going into the practice. But let's convene again at 5:15. One pause. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.